Welcome to the Art and Science of Joy podcast. This podcast is all about inspiring people to live more joyfully. So if you're seeking a bit more joy in your own life or seeking to bring some more joy to the lives of others, then this podcast could well be for you. And welcome to the Year of Joy series, in which I talk to experts on special powers, which we call Joy Superpowers. Each and every one of us can cultivate in order to build more joy into our lives. I'm Andrew Cannon, and I have the honor to be your host. And in this episode, I'm excited to be talking with Kelli Jaecks about the joy superpower of self-love. Kelli is indeed a self-care strategist, a nationally published author, professional speaker, and blogger. Kelli works with organizations who want achievable strategies to slay burnout and optimize their team's total health. She also coaches others to put their own self-care first so they can fully live their lives and better serve the world. Kelli is the author of the bestseller Martinis Menopause, Strategies, Science, and Sips that empower women to beat the hormone groan, and hosts a popular blog on women's health and wellness. When not working, Kelli enjoys traveling to cool venues for scuba diving and performing in live theatre productions. Welcome to the show, Kelli.
Thank you so much, Andrew. It's always lovely to hear your introduction. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, she sounds cool.
She is cool. She is cool. Kelli cool. And she's wearing cool glasses. And I'm super happy to have you on the show. So let's start with the definition. What's your definition of self-love?
My definition of self-love is caring for yourself as you would your child or your best friend. Self-love really is about knowing who you are and what you need to make you tick, or to make you happy, to make you feel like you're alive. I've been talking about self-love for quite a while now, and it's interesting because I put it also in terms of self-care, right? Which is what it kind of was a darling in the wellness industry a couple of years ago. And now there's a lot of back and forth talk about self-care. Some people feel like if you say self-care, you're just putting another burden on a person of what to do today. Oh, yes, I know I need to exercise. I know I need to eat better. I know I need to do this and that. And it adds to people's overwhelm. And that is what I don't want people to take away from this. Self-love really starts as an attitude in yourself that I am worthy of care. I, myself, am worthy of being cared for.
So that's the sense of knowing and understanding your self-worth ultimately.
Yes, and for some people that's harder than others, depending on how we were raised and the situations we find ourselves in, to feel that you have value. But every person can start on that journey of self-love, even if you have negative thoughts about yourself, because that's one of the strategies I teach is let's recognize the negative thoughts we have about ourselves. And I find women in particular often are enculturated. We are to have lots of negative thoughts about ourselves. So even if you feel like, well, I'm not this or that, or I don't look like this, or I don't have her personality, or I have not had this, whatever it is, wherever a person is, you can start by, taking a breath and being still, recognizing what you're saying to yourself. And you have the power to change one thought. You have the power to say, I'm going to love myself today. I'm going to take care of myself today. Everybody can say that. And when you speak like that and think like that, then it does begin to turn your actions, and you can start to change to where you do realize your worth and your value just as a human being, just who you are.
You are, yeah. And it's amazing, this negativity bias that we seem to have as humans when we look at the world in general also applies equally to when we look at ourselves, it seems. So when we look in the mirror, we're more likely to pull out the three things that we don't like about our bodies or our face
Yeah.
than the one thing that
Yes.
we like. So that just seems to be a natural reaction. So if we're not consciously doing something about it, our default tends to be negative, I think.
I do believe the default is negative. And I don't know why human beings are like that. There's a lot of reasons,
Mm.
but we tend to internalize messages we look at, messages we see, whether that's on our phone screen, our social media, our televisions, whatever it is, it's easy it seems like, to take in the negative. But that's what I'm saying. No, you got to get up in the morning with a smile on your face and show the world all the love in your heart. That kind of attitude is so much happier, and it feels so much better.
Oh, it certainly does. It certainly does. And we're not going to go all the way down the rabbit hole of the human brain, or indeed the whole rabbit hole of social media. But one thing I want to touch on social media when we talk about self-love, we can see a thing where, people or certain people are putting out an image, which is an unrealistic image of themselves, almost a negative sort of self-love in a way, can come across rather than a positive self-love. So I'm wondering how you see the line between those two things of, loving yourself in a positive way and having a negative or almost narcissistic self-love.
Right. I think it comes down to, again, to the core of who are you? Who do you see yourself as a person? Like myself, I'm Kelli. I'm a 61-year-old woman. Yes, I've done all these things in my life, but I'm also little girl Kelli. I'm also baby Kelli. She lives in here, right?
Right.
Adolescent Kelli lives in here. So I think the line to me is, most people who go to that narcissistic self-love and the image, they really are doing it out of insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
They don't love themselves as they are, and must create the image for the world to see, the image they would like to be, the image they hope others see them as.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, it comes down to that authenticity. And when I talk to audiences in corporations or associations or across the world, wherever I'm speaking about this, I talk about self-care. I talk about resilience, which self-love is a huge tenet of how do you become a resilient human being.
Mm.
Because most people, Andrew, are not the narcissists.
No.
Most people are not crossing the line of saying, I'm going to take care of myself to the detriment of all of the rest of the world. No. Most of us are the opposite. We care so much for other people.
Mm.
We have compassion or caring for our families, for the work that we do. I speak a lot in healthcare realms, the healthcare professions, that all it is caring for other people, right? Most people give and give and give themselves away to their jobs, to their families, to those they love, to those less fortunate than themselves. So really, I tend to ignore the narcissistic self-love type of folks, because to me, they're not real. They're not authentic.
Yeah.
The authentic self-love is, I know who I am. I know I am not perfect. I am sometimes difficult to live with and difficult to be around, but I know who I am. And to me, that is the basis of the self-love, is accepting yourself for who you are.
That's brilliant. Thank you for clearing that up. And I think I agree with you. I think that most people don't need to worry about that. That most people, I think, are underselling themselves,
Yeah.
um, giving themselves a pat on the back, a hug, whatever they should be doing to promote their self-love, which we'll get onto in a bit. But before we do that, what about your own journey with self-love? Is there anything you'd like to share with the audience um, around how you got to do what you're doing?
Yes, how did I get to do it? Yes. Well, I have, of course, a whole cadre of stories, but I was speaking. I've been speaking for over 15 years, and about 5 or 6 years ago, I really came into the self-love. I thought we've got to talk about self-care because I've been in the healthcare industry forever. My first degree was a Bachelor of Science in Dental Hygiene,
Mm-hmm.
and I went on to get a master's and all of that. But I speak in healthcare. I've worked in healthcare. My dear husband is a retired general surgeon in medicine, so healthcare was our lives, you know. And I saw my husband giving himself away into his profession. You know, there will never not be sick people. You know, he worked in the hospital system, in a healthcare system, and I was watching him and his colleagues, and myself and my colleagues, like dental hygienists, they just burn out. Like their bodies can't take it anymore. I was watching burnout happen, and I thought we've got to stop this.
Right.
We've got to get the message of we are important. And when you fall down, think of everyone else who falls down with you. And, my husband had a career ending episode where he couldn't get out of bed and he was done. He was done.
Sorry to hear. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're fine now. We're great, but it was a year of a lot of work and a lot of sleep for him. Big part of his self-care journey. And the other story I like to tell, Andrew, is in 2020 when COVID happened, I had just been diagnosed with breast cancer, and there's a whole story there, but it necessitated me having 2 major surgeries and a full double mastectomy. And I was like going full bore before this happened. And, I was leading an association, and I was, running all over the country with my business. And I realized, okay, holy cow, it was another marker of this is why we take care of ourselves. And because I already had so many principles in my life that I have just embodied and I've learned over the years, chiefly gratefulness is one of them. I was able to go through that year like a house on fire. That was part of my attitude was, F you, cancer. You're not bringing me down. Mm-hmm. I'm going to continue with my life. And, I did a whole YouTube series on Kelli beats breast cancer because for me, that was part of the self-care was I need to draw my community around me. And that is a really a tenet of self-love. Who is around you? Who do you surround yourself with? And I needed my community. I needed to talk to my community. I needed people to know what I was going through. And through that, I received, so much positivity from the world and from individuals. So to me, self-love it's that mindset is I'm worth it. And what do I need to do today to take care of myself?
So it's a big part of self-reflection, I suppose, that comes of this. You can't just jump into it, or you could, I suppose, and explore along the way is one option. But to actually pause and sort of ask that question, who am I? And maybe also reflect on that inner child that you talked about, that not just who you are as a mature adult, but who really is inside you. What do they need?
What do they need? And how are you today because of who you were then? Compassion for yourself, having compassion for yourself, compassion for your younger self. Even things in our adult life, maybe choices we made that we are not particularly proud of, or we feel we made a mistake or acted in ways that we wish we had not had acted. And many people, most of us have episodes like that in our lives. And it's having compassion and forgiveness for yourself. Because, many people, even when I raised my children are in their 30s. Well, back then we spanked kids. You know, we grabbed them by the arm and spanked their bottoms, and we sat them down and said, "Now you sit there and behave," right? Well, parenting is so different. And I wouldn't do that today from what I know about parenting and child psychology. But I can't blame myself. I have to say, I did the best I could at that time with what I knew.
Yeah.
And I wasn't being evil. I wasn't being mean. I wasn't that type of parent. But that's just one baby little example of we need to have compassion for ourselves, because most people are trying to do the best they can.
Yeah.
At whatever it is that, work, family, most of us are trying to do the best we can.
Yeah, no, I get that. And even the moments when we underperform in that respect, right? When maybe we don't even try our hardest at a given time, at least having that realization, that recognition at that moment, I wasn't at my best, and that's okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are human.
No, we're
we
human.
are not perfect.
Thank goodness.
I mean, right. Oh, yes. I have a speaker colleague. I just love her. Her name is Jess Pettit. And one of the things she says is good enough now. This is good enough for now.
Yeah.
Give yourself a break.
Right. Yeah, but the world is pushing us in so many ways, right? To be better, to be faster, more efficient, more productive, more.
Yes. And that's like one of the challenges I see today related to self-love in today's world, is that very thing you just said. Is we have this hustle mindset. We have been told, we believe that to be busy is to be valuable. Oh, I'm so busy. How was your day? Oh, I was so busy. Ba, 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 ba. Oh, work is so busy, and we wear busyness as a badge of I am good, I am valuable, I am productive. But that hustle mentality, that busyness of never slowing down, that is an enemy to us if we're trying to care about ourselves and love ourselves, because we all only have 24 hours in a day, every human, and we have to sleep, we have to eat, we have to care for others, and we need to care for ourselves. And some people, there are of course seasons in our lives that are much more busy and crazy than others. If you've got young babies, you've got babies hanging off your chest, eating, you've got sick parents you're caring for, you've got a crisis happening somewhere. Yes, of course, there are seasons. When my mother last year fell and broke her hip, she's doing great, by the way, now. She fell and broke her hip. That was a month of out my life. I was there, I was planning care, I was spending the night, I was getting her up in the middle of the night. There's seasons, right? When your routine or your self-care, self-love, it takes a hit, of course. But in general, it's a mindset, is I matter. Keeping myself physically and mentally well is my job, number one.
Yeah.
And that's where I think people also, they think, well, if I do this, it's selfish. And self-care is way more than booking a massage for yourself or getting a pedicure. Those are acts that we do. Self-care and self-love is that attitude, is that mindset of, I need to take care of myself, because why? Then I am better. I am better wife. I'm a better mom. I'm a better employer. I'm a better employee, right? I'm a better human being for the world when I am caring and loving myself.
Oh,
and
absolutely. Absolutely.
Right?
That's a great shift, isn't it? I remember in our research when we did the foundational research on joy that, it really is that well-being, and that's obviously your physical, emotional, spiritual, mental well-being. that is a result of your self-love, right? Those things don't come from abusing yourself. Those things come
Right.
from treating yourself with respect and appreciating and valuing your self-worth. And
Yes.
that has to be the foundation. You cannot spend enough time helping others and loving others if you don't love yourself. I think you do
Also,
it
that is
short
true.
term, as you
Yeah,
say,
it's the
short term. Yeah, you could do it, but
short
not.
term. No, you're right. I mean, if you're not, I mean, I go into corporations and businesses and speak about this, right, at their meetings, their annual conferences or whatever. And it's like, as an employer, do you want your employee just like dragging in,
Mhm.
barely attitudinally not being there, or showing up, but they're not really engaged because they're burnout. They're
Yeah.
give, and that's my message is really stop, be still,
Hmm.
care for yourself, then you will be a better fill in the blank.
Yeah, I love it, Kelly. You said some wonderful tips. I've wrote down, I think, one, two, three, four of them at least. I've got gratitude. I've
Yes.
got who you surround yourself with, your friends, your community. I've got compassion. So
Yeah.
those are the three that I sort of noted down. Are there any I've missed? Are there any other sort of things you would say, right? If we're talking about self-love, these are some of the tips that you would also recommend our listeners to give a
Yes,
go.
because sometimes we need like what to do, and then it gets us in the right
Hmm.
direction. Right? And so I have a very simple practice, and anyone can do this, no matter what your headspace is. And that is when I wake up in the morning and, throw the covers off, I'm going to put my feet on the floor. I have trained myself. When my feet hit the floor, I go, thank you. Thank you. As I'm walking, to the restroom, the sink, whatever, thank you. Because when you start your day saying thank you, and it doesn't matter who or what you're saying thank you to, you are putting a gratitude message into the world, right? That I am grateful I'm alive.
Mm, I love
So
it.
that's simple, right? You just train yourself, take a week or so, but no matter how you're feeling, thank you. So it's a simple thing, but it starts that. The other thing I spoke about is being aware of your head trash, your negative,
Mm,
right? Because when we're saying to myself, oh, whatever, I'll never get that promotion. I'm so fat. I have, why can't I this, that, or other? Then you say, oh, wait, stop. That's a negative. You recognize it. And you can replace it. Usually you can replace it with a positive. Another activity that people can do that I find really enlightening is, even if you only have 5 minutes, you sit down, pen and paper, and think, what are all the good things I've done this week,
mm.
right? I wrote a card to my friend. I took the kids to soccer. I made a really nice dinner for my family. Whatever. And expand it, because when you look at your life in a positive way, what are all the things I've accomplished or that I've done or that I'm proud of? Like, I'm proud that me personally have raised, with the help of my partners, 2 children who are they're thriving. They
Mm.
launched. I'm proud of that. That's something I did, and that was many many years of making choices and trying to do the best I could at the time. But we forget sometimes
Mm.
all that. How did you get into the job you're in right now? Was it
Right.
a thing that you fell into, and oh, how I'm so grateful for that? Or is it something you worked towards? And here you are. Wow, I accomplished this. What do I want to do next? To take a kind of a journaling of your life.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And I like the thought that, okay, there are these big moments, but let's also celebrate the little things
Yeah.
that we put a little extra effort into the dinner, or We
I
remembered
got the
somebody.
laundry folded and put
Yeah.
away.
Any
Maybe,
teenagers out
no,
there? I picked my
maybe.
clothes up off the floor this
Yes,
week. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, I just think it's so important to do that. Another practice that I have created in my life, and there's a different people who speak about doing things like this, but at night, I'm a big proponent. I can do a whole talk for you on sleep hygiene and how to prepare your brain and body for rest so you can get better sleep. But one thing I do is once I'm in bed, my light is on. I'm a reader, so I'm always reading. But even before I read, I get in bed, I take a breath, I close my eyes, and I do a review of the day. And anything that maybe I spoke harshly to someone, maybe I responded in a way or did something I was not at my best, I forgive myself. Okay, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll talk to that person. And then I go through the day and I think of everything that I liked about the day that happened. Like tonight, I'll be saying, "Oh, it's so great to be on that podcast with Andrew." Mm-hmm. And I give gratitude and thanks for the good things of the day. And then I think about the tomorrow. And I say, tomorrow's going to be a good day. And then I can go to sleep. And I've reset it's a mindset. I have reset my mindset to get rid of the negative.
Yeah.
We all have hard days. And believe me, I also have hard days and hard times in relationships you work through and all that stuff. We all do. And then, but what was good about the day?
Yeah.
What, could be anything.
Yeah.
So those are the simple practices that I'm a big proponent of thanking my body. Like when I work out, I thank my knees. Lately, I've been thanking my ankles.
Right.
I play tennis. I thank my elbows. I thank my wrists. And I literally say it. Thank you, wrists. Thank you.
Right.
Oh my, thank you, hips. Thank you, feet that I can walk. I mean, just that attitude of your body is the only place you're going to live. So, let's take care of it. It's the only place you got.
I love it. I love it, Kelly. I love it, Kelly. I mean, you've shared, I think, a lot of things to do with mindset, which is fantastic. But then you've also given people some fantastic practical advice on how to do this, which we're going to continue when on the 21st of this month, we'll be having the live stream event with some other self-love experts talking more deeply on this topic. So that's going to be fantastic. But that's all we got time for today, except for one last question we always like to ask, which is what brings you joy?
Thank you. What brings me joy? I love a sunshiny day with bright, fresh air blowing. That brings me joy. My biggest hobby is performing in live theater. So being on a stage, moving an audience emotionally brings me joy, and all the process it takes to get to there. I'm in the middle of a production right now. We open on Friday.
Wow.
A play called Exit Laughing, a very funny comedy. So it takes time for me to carve out time to do some of the things that bring me joy. I love to scuba dive. Well, that involves going somewhere, getting in the water. It involves a lot of things. But I believe in doing what you can to bring you joy. So, laughing with my girlfriends brings me a whole lot of joy. So
excellent.
Simple things, big and small.
Beautiful. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you so much, Kelly, for being on the show today. It was a pleasure and a joy chatting with you.
Thank you, Andrew.
And I hope your listeners enjoyed this podcast episode as much as I did. And I hope you feel inspired to cultivate your joy superpower muscle of self-love. If so, please check out the show notes for links to Kelly and her resources. If you're already a member of the Year of Joy community, please join us there in the forum, where over the next few weeks, we'll work together on integrating some of Kelly's tips into our lives. And if you're not already a member, please visit the Art and Science of Joy website to find out more about the community and how to join. Thanks once again for listening, and I hope you tune in for the next episode of the Art and Science of Joy podcast. Until then, stay well, stay joyful, and spend some time loving yourself.